Hello, New Vision Center. My name is Reverend Leslie, and I'm one of your senior ministers, and it is so wonderful to be with you this morning. If you are brand new, I want to extend my special personal welcome to you and to let you know that we are on an annual theme journey. So if this message resonates with you, you might want to go back to the beginning of January, and right there on that same YouTube channel you're on right now, you can access all of the ministers' talks from January to kind of catch up, because this is a theme we're going to carry around all the way through 2021. So, I'm going to tell a tale on one of my kids, which, let's be fair. If you have a minister for mom, you're going to get talked about on the platform. There's kind of no escape. So Lauren, my daughter, who is an adult now, all my kids are adults now, she used to say, "No, I do it my own self. You no do it. Mama, you no do it. I do my own self." She said this about getting dressed, picking out her clothes, eating her food, cleaning her room, uncleaning her room, which usually involved a lot of throwing of toys. She never wanted help. And I remember having to work very hard to understand that this was age appropriate, developmentally appropriate for her to learn to establish her own independence. And odds are we all went through a period of this as we were kids, as we were learning how to do it our own self. And I think we learned it a little too well, because it is a tremendous challenge for most adults to ask for help, to allow help into their life. We all feel like we should be doing it our own self, right? We don't want to invite people in. But I want to challenge that. I want to challenge that today. My talk today is called Magical Menagerie of Mentors. And we are on, our annual theme is the spiritual hero's journey, where we are each inviting the awareness into our life of the spiritual call upon our heart to set out on a grand adventure, whether it's a traveling adventure or the adventure of approaching a new project or a new dream or a new kind of career. There's something that's calling on each one of our hearts uniquely and perfectly. And so when we're talking about the spiritual hero's journey, we are here as we're talking about it. We're here. We recognized the call to adventure in our lives. In the beginning of January, we did a meditative process where we identified what the call is that's calling us forth right now. And we've explored, what are the tools we have in our rucksack that we're taking with us on the trip. And Rev Bev talked us through being brave enough to take those first couple steps. And we're almost to the threshold. You see, the top third is like the normal world, the life we've had so far. But the majority of our journey, on our spiritual hero's journey, is beyond the threshold into the world of the unknown. The unknown. We've never been there before. And the last thing that tends to happen is meeting a mentor. So roll back through your favorite story of choice, whether you're picturing Dumbledore or Gandalf or Giles or Q, there's somebody there guiding the adventurer that's about to head out. And I imagine that if I were that little figure with my little backpack and I've got my map and I'm ready to go and I get to the point where I'm supposed to meet a mentor, I go, "No, I do it my own self. I do it my own self. I don't want help." This is a talk for the individuals among us, but it's also a talk for the whole community, because there is a point at which we can no longer go forward in an unbalanced way. It's about balance between independence, personal responsibility, and interdependence, community. The molding of those two. None of those heroes are out there on their own. The ones that are on their own die. Every big adventure, the adventurers that went before, they never made it back. That's because they wouldn't accept any help. Nobody's dying on this trip. I'm not allowing. 2021, we're all getting to the end of it together. So we don't want to be the ones that won't accept help. It's also about achieving a balance between body, mind, and spirit. All of science of mind, all of new thought, all of spirituality is always about achieving a balance between body, mind, and spirit. Because if we get too stuck in any one of those categories, we get frozen. We have to have the balance to make it all the way around the cycle. We're going to need that balance, and we're going to need to be interdependent to get there. So that is why this talk is called a Magical Menagerie of Mentors. One mentor can't get you there. One mentor, each mentor is going to be an expert in something, and it's going to take a team, a crew. And we've talked about the merry band. When you're on an adventure, there's always a merry band. Buffy had the Scoobies. And the Lord of the Rings trilogy, there were all the hobbits, and then they got dwarves, and it just, more and more people, elves, they just kept joining the band. The band kept getting bigger and bigger. Every story you can think of, there's going to be Alice, by the end, had a ton. Jolene is particularly fond of The Wizard of Oz. Dorothy had her trio that she traveled with, and then she also ended up with Glinda the Good Witch, and with the wizard himself, and all the people that helped along the way. None of us do it alone. And those groups don't form themselves. You have to find them and choose them and meet them and invite them on your journey. So this is our Magical Menagerie of Mentors. So we're going to start at the easy one. We're going to start with the body. And I don't necessarily mean physical body, though I mean, yeah, physical body too. But we're talking about the body of our affairs. So when we're talking about this kind of a mentor, we're talking about what you think of when we talk about a mentor. We're talking about the person who knows how to do the thing you want to do, right? You know, you have the choice. Our traveler has a map, right? When you're going to go somewhere you've never been before, you have to have instructions. So our traveler has a map, and most of us have a decent idea of how to get somewhere, right? If we don't at least have instructions, we can look it up on YouTube. There's a video for how to do, I think, anything on YouTube. But when you want to go a place you've never gone before, even with directions, it's difficult. Sometimes just the fear of stepping into that much of a level of unknown is enough to stop us from moving forward. So think about the difference in comfort level of trying something new, going to a new place, if someone writes down the directions for you, versus if they say, I'll go with you the first time. Or if you get lost, you can call me and I'll help you. There's a different level of comfort in that, isn't there? It's a different thing when we invite someone in who has been where we wish to go, who's done what we wish to do, who can say, if you get stuck, call me, and I'll talk you through it. J. Laura Norris said it like this: if you cannot see where you are going, ask someone who has been there before. The world is full of people who are right now, right this moment, doing the thing that feels impossible to you. It only feels impossible because you haven't stood on that soil yet. Mark Arnold is in a class with me, and he's told this story a number of times, and so I know he's okay with me sharing it, but he has been a musician his entire life. He went to school for music. He plays multiple instruments. He writes music. He has a degree in music. And it never occurred to him to write spiritual music and make an album. And then he saw friends around the center writing spiritual music. And I can do that. Did it for a class. It was very popular. And then somebody made an album. Someone he knew. Not just someone in the world. I mean, we've all had albums. But someone he knew, someone from this community made an album. And he thought, well, hey, that's really cool. And then another person from this community made an album of spiritual music. Wait a minute, maybe this is a thing I can do. And his mental equivalent expanded enough that he reached out to one of the people that had made an album and said, who did you work with? What did you do? How did you make it happen? And I think he's about to release his 4th album now. I think that that's the right number. He's working on his 4th album. A road that seemed impossible became like, well, yeah, this is just what we do at New Vision Center. We just write a bunch of music and make a bunch of albums. And we have, I think, 5 songwriters that regularly do such a thing in this community alone, this community of only a few hundred people. Why? Because somebody was willing to take the first step and then mentor the next ones that came along. Could he have done it on his own? Probably. Would he have done it on his own? I don't think so. Not based on what he said to me. It just wouldn't have felt like a thing that was possible. It's not just about the details of how to do it. It's about having a champion. It's about having somebody there to say, in the moments when you feel like maybe this isn't a thing you can do, somebody to say, of course you can. You're amazing. You need to do this. The world is calling you into it. It's about having a champion in the world of your effects, whether it's someone at work, whether it's someone who is, if you're wanting to be more fit, somebody who is really fit and will carry you along on the journey as you get started. Whatever it is you're dreaming of, find somebody who is already walking that road. They only need to be a few steps in front of you for them to be able to assist you on the path. But they must be an absolute, vocal, vibrant yes for you and your goal and your dream. That's the qualification. That they're a yes for you. That is what I would call your material mentor or your body mentor. And this is the one that people talk about all the time. So you're probably familiar with this concept. But next we have your mind. So we've got your body heading in the right direction. Your feet are walking down the right road. You're pretty sure you got the right directions, and you've got somebody to call if you take a wrong turn. But what's going on in your mind? What's going on in your thinking? Perhaps you've heard in Science of Mind, change your thinking, change your life. This is a phrase that comes up about once a day for all time. We work together to help one another keep our thinking on the right path. Your spiritual mentor, your mind mentor, this is what we're talking about when we're talking about practitioners and ministers. Practitioners and ministers. And to a certain extent, friends that are also studying the same things. We run into something when we start talking about get a spiritual mentor, get a practitioner. And that is this really, I think, confused belief that if I have my stuff together, I don't need that. I don't need a spiritual mentor. I can read Ernest Holmes. Dude on the chart can read a map, right? I don't need that. And if I need that, if I ask for that, I am demonstrating, I am outing myself as being messed up. Ooh. Ooh. Just go ahead and feel that. Most of the people hearing this talk, that one will hit. And here's what I want you to know. You cannot go anywhere that you can't imagine. You can't go anywhere in consciousness that you haven't already been without guidance. Because you don't know what it is. I am very vocal about my use of a practitioner. I have a practitioner. I meet with them regularly. Whether I need it or not, I always need it. And I am very proud to say, if you ever catch wind of me not having one, fire me. Fire me. Right then, fire me. because I will be saying through my actions that I think I have it all down pat, that I know how this is supposed to go, this life, and that I am unwilling to grow any further. There is something alchemical that happens when we allow ourselves to be guided by someone who is a couple of steps further than we are on the spiritual journey. Not better, just a little bit deeper, a little bit farther on that path through their own willingness to be mentored themselves. I don't know any ministers that don't have a practitioner or a spiritual mentor. Any. I don't know any. I don't know any practitioners that don't have a spiritual practitioner or a mentor. I wouldn't hold the license for a practitioner that didn't have a practitioner. So if there is a part of you thinking, I shouldn't need that, let it go. It's garbage. That's a lie. It's a lie you've been telling yourself. Let it go. Because you are worth having anchored support and assistance. Peter Kestenbaum said it like this. He said, to recognize another's inwardness is to have seen the sacred. And that's something that a spiritual mentor and a spiritual mentee do for each other. As you let someone into the deepest parts of yourself and allow yourself to be guided, you are standing in the witnessing of their sacredness, and they are standing in that witnessing of you. And there's something that blossoms in the two or more that is just not available in any other way, that takes us deeper than we've ever been before. And it's important for the spiritual community, because until we are willing to be truly deeply vulnerable with one another, the community can only go so far. I mean, we could all get together every Sunday and be a club of nice people that do nice things, and that would be lovely. But I think we're called to something more than that, something deeper than that, that requires an energetic and emotional interdependence and a laying down of false boundaries. And when we open to spiritual mentorship, we are telling the universe, take me as deep as I can go, take me as far as I can go. I am willing. And it opens the door to our third level of mentorship, which is the mentorship of the Spirit, the mentorship of the indwelling divine that is the still small voice. So this isn't a relationship that you need to go out and find. In fact, this isn't a relationship that you could go out and find. It's a relationship that is internal, and all you can do is invite your own awareness. Because that voice that is God, remember we say the highest God and the indwelling God is one God. So that still small voice that you hear when you allow yourself to get quiet enough is God as mentor in you, uniquely in you. The individualization of the infinite, omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient, divine oneness, individualized as the voice in you for you. But we can't hear it until we're willing to open to it. And it takes the other two kinds of mentors in our life to teach us, to help us to heal, and to build the bravery in our individual souls that allow us to open to the reality, not the idea, the reality. I want you to see that word reality with a capital R. The reality that God is talking to you all the time. All the time. Guiding you personally, rightly on your spiritual hero's journey all the time. I wonder sometimes if God is in there going, is she ever going to shut up and listen to me? And that's the goal. Can we learn to stop second guessing that voice? Stop asking questions like, well, how do I know it's really God? You know it's God because you can feel that the call is real. If it scares you, you extra know it's God because it has this tendency to push you a little further and faster than you want to go, right? If you feel like, oh my gosh, I need to call one of the other two mentors, it's a good sign that it is God talking, and do that, because they will talk you into doing the thing that you already know that your soul needs and wants so deeply. So deeply. Our wonderful founder, Ernest Holmes, wrote, "Amidst the din and uproar of our lives, the accumulated fear, doubt, and confusion of the ages, there has been and always will be a still small voice that seeks to proclaim itself through us. Life has given us all we could ever desire. It is up to us to decide and discover for ourselves what the nature of life is and accept it." The nature of life is the balance between the independent, individualized, personal ownership of life and the interdependent, communal, mentoring of one another's hearts and souls and actions, so that we rise, like the song said, together as one voice, one world, one community, one life, one heart. As long as we continue to believe that we are only separate individuals, we cannot have a world that is peace. Peace comes when we recognize the interconnectedness of life. As long as we think that we are separate and must do it ourselves, we can't rise to the heights that we are being called to. They say that the great ones stand upon the shoulders of heroes from before. We're living in a life right now that is technologically superior to anything that most of us could even have imagined as children. And yet we carry around computers in our pockets that are also cameras and movie cameras and calculators. Remember when your math teacher told you you wouldn't have a calculator everywhere you went when you grew up? Wrong. We're living in an era of miracles because we're building upon the accomplishments of one another in an interconnected way. And if you want a life that looks like a miracle, then your job is this. You have 2 phone calls to make this week. Don't put it off. You won't do it if you put it off. Make a call to a mentor, a material mentor that is doing the thing that you feel called to do in your spiritual hero's journey. If you're nervous to call, shake it off and do it anyway. The worst thing that can happen is they say no, and then you're in exactly the same place as if you didn't call. They almost always say yes. The second call is to a spiritual practitioner or minister for an ongoing spiritual mentoring relationship. This will be what teaches you to go deeper, deeper, deeper than you've ever gone before, and will open you up so that you can hear that third mystical mentor, the mentor of spirit, is always right where you are. So you've got to make those calls, and then let me know what happens. I want to hear from you about it. Let's anchor this in prayer. How good it is to know the absolute truth of the universe. To know that there is one God, one Spirit, one life, one anchored source of all that is. All that is. It is right here, where we are, as we are, who we are. That we are the breathing breath, the active hands, the voice of the divine on this earth. How good it is to know, for me to know that it's my truth, and for each of us to know that it is our truth, and that exactly what we need is right where we are. The right people, the right conversations, the right resources, the right relationships, the right community, the right belief system, the right level of technology, the right openness to learning is right where we are, right here, right now. And so I know that each of our journeys continue one step further, blessed, supported, uplifted, and loved. It is so, so, so good to know this divine truth about my life, about our lives, and about the life of this community. So I call it good and I release it into the action of universal law, grateful and knowing the truth. And so it is.